right. Hi, thank you everyone for coming.
Misty?
Yes? Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all for coming. I'm Misty Madero. I manage the UC Riverside EPIC SBDC SBIR STTR Resource Center. I'm glad you all could join us for today for our SBIR Talk series. I'm going to ask everyone except our speakers to mute their video and microphone. We'll have a short presentation, and then at that time for Q&A, we will ask you to put your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we will call on you. We are with the Office of Technology Partnerships at UC Riverside. Our office facilitates the development of commercialization of ideas emanating from UCR and the community. The areas of focus for our Office of Technology, or from our office, are technology commercialization, corporate and strategic partnerships, and innovation and entrepreneurship. Under our Innovation and Entrepreneurship Program, we have our EPIC Small Business Development Center, or SBDC, and our SBIR STTR Resource Center. Our SBDC provides individualized support to early stage entrepreneurs and companies in Southern California to grow their businesses at no cost. Additionally, our SBIR STTR Resource Center will help you submit a winning proposal. Martin, can you put on the screen the slide for our Resource Center?
Sure. Let me flip on that.
So this is a slide regarding our Office of Technology Partnerships, and these are the services we provide under our center. We support you in any way you can, to submit winning proposals to the SBIR STTR program. And if you're interested in learning more about the Resource Center or about the Office of Technology Partnerships, please email me for more information. This webinar is brought to you today in part and thanks to the SBA and our lead center, Orange County Inland Empire Network. Today we have Professors Dr. Ming Lee Tang and Dr. Lorenzo Mangolini as our guest speakers, and our moderator today is Dr. Martin Kleckner, SBIR STTR guru and entrepreneur in residence, who is a serial entrepreneur, and his ventures and clients have been awarded over $60 million in federal agency and private funds during the past 6 years. He's worked with the highly regarded Innovation Corps, or NSF Corps, program at universities nationwide, and has more than 30 years experience in senior level operations, general management, marketing, and business development. Martin, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Misty. Can you and everybody else hear me?
Yes.
Terrific. Okay, that's a first. Everybody, I always feel so nervous about screen sharing and so forth. So I am really delighted to have Lorenzo and Ming Lee join us today. And so what I thought I would do is allow each of them to give a brief introduction of themselves, because I am absolutely confident that I can give neither one of them justice to everything that they have been doing. So Ming Lee, would you mind giving us a brief overview of yourself? And then we'll pass the baton over to Dr. Mangolini.
All right. Thanks, Martin. I'd like to thank Martin and Misty for giving me and Lorenzo the chance to talk today. So I've been at UC Riverside for 7.5 years. This is my 8th year, and I'm in chemistry and material science and engineering. And so my group is a materials chemistry group. And 5 years ago now, we made a discovery where we could convert low energy light into high energy light, near infrared light to visible light quite efficiently. And so this is the basis of my PFI TT award and a lot of the research in my group. So, and along the way, I've been relying on people like Martin and also the UCR encore mentors to really help me in progressing further into thinking about commercialization and also how to get more funding to make, to bring this to market, basically.
Great, Ming Lee, thank you so much. Lorenzo, hey.
Yeah, Lorenzo Mangolini here. I'm an associate professor now. It's been long enough. This is actually my 10th year at UCR. So I'm in mechanical engineering, joined with material science and engineering. Roughly 3-4 years ago, we started to get more and more involved with the office of commercialization with Rosie Belocho and with the rest of the gang there. And so we got introduced to the entrepreneurs in residence. We've been working with Art Salier for a few years now. And so we started a business. We funded SiLi-Ion, me and my postdoc, 2 years ago. We incorporated a few months ago. And we have been going after every grant opportunity available to advance the technology. And we were awarded NSF PFI just a couple of months ago. The starting date was in May. It was quite a process. I'm extremely grateful to the support that we received from Martin, from Rosibel, and from the rest of her team. I think it's been absolutely instrumental at getting the PFI, and hopefully will pay off even further in the future. So Martin, back to you.
Terrific. Thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you, Ming Lee. So I thought that what I would do is just spend about 5 minutes max, maybe for mostly humanitarian reasons, but I know you're here to speak with Ming Lee and Lorenzo, not yours truly here. So let me just spend about 4 slides or thereabouts to just give you a 30,000-foot overview for those of you who are not familiar with PFI, Partnerships for Innovation. And the academic and industry partnerships we know, and the National Science Foundation knows, enhance the chances or likelihood of market development and commercialization success. And also that a lot of research that may be too early or premature for SBIR or STTR funding, they really are worth funding support to get them into a better position for continuing capital. So back in the olden days, 2017, the NSF, by way of a congressional mandate, the Competitive Act that you see down below on the bottom line, they developed this program to move forward and accelerate funded science and engineering research. And so these are the 5 key areas that they are setting great store by. And you'll see partnerships, you'll see the maximization or taking advantage of multidisciplinary innovation ecosystems, professional development, and all the rest under the concept and belief that partnerships and a well-managed ecosystem bear or present the best chances for commercialization and sustainability. So that's what we're focusing on today. So there are really 3 essential outcomes, and they're here before you. We believe that a lot of the work that I've already mentioned may be premature, not necessarily ready for prime time with SBIR and STTR programs. So without initiatives such as the PFI, they may not have a chance to get into position for further funding. So that's the critical import there. Really important to enhance partnerships between academia and industry. This has been a long-standing conversation, but unfortunately, save for programs such as the PFI, there really has not been a measurable and effective instrument to move it forward. Now we have PFI, and the response has been absolutely tremendous. No surprise to all of us, we've got to work to enhance the participation of women and underrepresented individuals within underrepresented groups. So PFI sets great store by and promotes this extensively. So these are the 2 initiatives, and Ming Lee and Lorenzo have been awarded, I believe, the PFI tech translation. They'll clarify that if I'm incorrect, but I think that's the case.
That's the case.
And they're, okay, terrific, as opposed to research partnerships. I think the key distinguishing characteristic here is the research partnerships mandates an industry partner, but tech translation highly encourages and it enhances the chances for success if you also have an industry partnership as well. So they'll talk about that a little bit further. So who is eligible? And I highlighted these because the PFIs are awarded to universities, research universities, and also 2 to 4 year colleges. And this includes JCs, community colleges likewise. But it is also available, interestingly enough, to not-for-profit organizations and also not-for-profit academic organizations. They do need, however, to initiate and consummate a partnership with the university as a collaborator. Also very important, as I mentioned, partnerships likewise is the case for joint ventures, alliances and so forth there. Again, forming a partnership with a university researcher. So these are the critical areas, and we're prepared to have a more deep dive discussion of eligibility, who participates, why, their value, and so forth when Ming Lee and Lorenzo are chatting. So there are team requirements here, and for those of you who are familiar with SBIR and STTR, in phase 2, it is a commercialization expert such as an interim chief executive officer or business development officer is certainly very, very important. But for PFIs, there needs to be an active commercialization expert participating right from the get-go. And likewise, it is required or highly encouraged under tech translation that we have an industrial partner as a co-PI in this case. And again, we're going to chat with Lorenzo and Ming Lee about these particular topics. Of importance, however, and these are conditions for participation, is that you have to have what is called a National Science Foundation lineage. And what that means is that the university researcher or the university has to have an NSF award aged no more than 7 years prior on the particular topic that the PFI is funding, and or the proposer needs to have supported or need to have been involved directly with encore customer discovery, a national cohort, not a university site, but a national cohort within the past 4 years. So those are 2 lineage requirements that have to be complied with, one or the other. And so finally, this is a slide here. This is generally the progression of market development and commercialization that the NSF PFI is focused on. You'll see with PFI and encore there, they can be interchangeable. encore can precede partnerships for innovation and be used as a criteria for becoming eligible for applying for PFI. But this is generally the roadmap that the NSF is trying to accomplish. And successful graduation or completion of each one of these is an indication that you have heightened your chances for commercialization, market development success, including sustainability. So with that in mind, here are the rules of the game here. This is all about you asking questions and interacting with Lorenzo and Ming Lee. So I don't know if I can see it below me, Misty, but you might be able to in the chat. If you have a question for either one or both, insert it in chat, and Misty, perhaps you can read it. I don't know if I can see it here. But otherwise, feel free to raise your hand and jump in and ask a question. And so do we have anyone right now, or I can lead off if you wish? Does anybody have a question that you can see, Misty?
Scott. Scott has a question. Would you like to ask it, Scott?
Fire away, Scott.
Yeah, that'd be great. I just wanted to ask Lorenzo for some of the other startups that are on the line, if he could talk a little bit about how PFIs and other grants have helped him move his company along the commercialization path and get him ready to go out and raise venture capital, which he's just about to start doing. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that is a crucial point. So let's be really careful here. PFI is a grant to university. PFI is a grant to a professor or a group or a lab who is developing a technology. And the PFI does not directly support a company, but PFI supports advancing the technology and really getting ahead when it comes to validation and proof of concept and eventually building prototypes. So that is something that usually is not done at the university scale, that's why this program is to a certain extent a little bit weird, because usually NSF does not give money to university to do prototyping, but in this case it does, with the goal of making the likelihood of then translating the technology to commercialization is higher, okay? So the goal here from NSF is really to make sure that more technology can really cross the bridge from the lab to the commercial scale. And they do this at the university level. So in my personal case, all the data that I'm acquiring thanks to the support of the PFI, it's helping me grow and learn more about my technology, which in turn will make all my pitch to potential investors more credible and will increase my chance of success.
What about you, Ming Lee?
Well, so for me, the PFI-TT gives me funds to create a deliverable, a prototype which I can send to potential customers, right? Which will eventually lead to demand for this product. So, and without this prototype, we can't really sell, or we can't really convince the end user that our product is superior to what's already on the market. So this is key to acquiring SBIR funding and potential venture capital funds, right? So the fact that they provide funds to translate it to academic research into a viable working product, not large scale, a small scale, is key for me here.
So could I ask, I don't know if you had mentioned it in your introduction or the orientation, but could each of you share your NSF lineage? I mean, what qualified you to become eligible to apply for a PFI in the first place? There was obviously a foundation, either encore or precursor research, an R01 or something like that. What enabled you to apply for the PFI?
Who wants to go first, Ming Lee?
You can go first, Lorenzo.
Oh, okay. So the technology was developed during my career award, which is now expired. So I had the lineage for my career award. I had a bunch of papers on this technology that were where I acknowledged support of the career award, and so I could put that in the PFI proposal, nice and clear. And then there was the ICORP. The ICORP that we participated in a year before the PFI, a year before we submitted the PFI. So that was extremely important. The other thing that was extremely important was our involvement with the Office of Technology Transfer, because we've been working closely with the entrepreneur in residence, Art Salier, and we listed Art as the business expert in the PFI grant. And that was also absolutely instrumental in submitting a competitive proposal.
So this program has two lineage requirements, which can be independently fulfilled. So one of them is an NSF grant, which was active for the past 7 years, and the other is the National encore program. So not just the domestic one at UC Riverside, but the National encore program. So basically, I and Lorenzo got in, ticked both boxes. We fulfilled both criterion for the PFI-TT program. But having said that, I think that participation in the National encore program, and before that, participation in the UCR's regional encore program was really key to opening my eyes and to talking with folks around the country and finding potential customers for what I'm trying to do. So the encore program was really very useful in that sense, far more than I thought it would be. So I think if you are a busy academic and you want to brush it off, I think you should just do it and just jump in, so that you can have people like Martin, the professionals, really guiding you and helping you out in finding, you know, finding a niche for your technology to shine, basically.
That's terrific. Thank you both. So
I have a question from the chat, Martin.
oh, fantastic. Good. Yeah, that takes priority.
This is both for Lorenzo and Ming Lee, and this is from your colleague Haiju Liu. What are your successful strategies and suggestions to write the winning proposal? How is it different than a conventional NSF proposal in terms of your pitching points? Lorenzo?
Yeah, so the process for me was honestly a little bit weird in the sense that we submitted an SBIR. Not myself, but somebody, I think at that time, one of my students who just graduated, we listed him as SPI, but effectively I wrote the SBIR proposal for SiLi-Ion, for the company that I started, okay? And the panel was good. In the end, it wasn't funded because the panelists, they said, it's a little bit too early for this. We think that it is more appropriate for a PFI. And so I pretty much took that grant with a formatting, which is really, really similar to that of an SBIR proposal. And we changed the reformatting, we updated with new figures and stuff, but we took that and we sent it to the PFI. And that went really well. I mean, the reviews that we got back were really, really good. So the formatting was not that of, or the outline or the way it was structured, it was not exactly equal to a typical proposal, because there is a lot about commercialization strategies. You really need to describe the team, the business expert, what does he bring to the table. So the structure is a little bit different than the usual hypothesis-driven scientific proposal. It is really more tuned towards how do we bring this stuff to the market eventually.
Terrific.
Yeah, so if you were to attend a national encore session, then you would have already written half the proposal for the PFI-TT program. The PFI-TT program instructions are online and they're quite detailed. So they give you a page limit for each section. And so there's no room for imagination, essentially. You really need to just tick all the box, like answer all the questions on the PFI-TT website. And you have done your homework in the sense that you've done the national encore program and done enough field work about your potential market. So you need to have some information on your potential market and the customers. And that's a big difference from a regular grant where you just normally have a pie in the sky goal, right? Which may never be achieved, right? So that's the major difference.
Terrific.
Thank you.
So
Martin,
another
before
one?
you talk about encore, I have one other question ahead of the queue. Can you guys talk about the advantages of PFI over SBIR?
Do you want me to do that, or Ming Lee and Lorenzo?
If anyone has insight, does anyone want to take that?
Yeah, so for an academic, there's
go
no
ahead.
difference. For an academic, there's no big difference. Just as for the SBIR phase 1, it's the same amount of money as the PFI-TT. So, but obviously for phase 2, there's a PFI-RP program, which is comparable in terms of the monetary value to the phase 2, SBIR phase 2. So in terms of monetary award, there is no difference. So you should go for both, right, if you can.
Yeah, in my opinion, we did submit a couple of SBIR proposals before submitting the PFI. And the last SBIR proposal that didn't get funded, I think it got close to getting funded, but the feedback that we got from the panel was it's a little bit too early. It's a little bit too early for the team. It still feels like the technology has not grown yet. outside of the lab to the point of being compatible with an SBIR program. And so the panel said, we recommend that you resubmit this to the PFI. And that was the main reason why they said that. They thought that it was a little bit too early. And probably they were right. Probably they were right. I don't disagree with that, because now with the PFI, we can really spend a lot more time doing validation. And so our next step, I don't think we're going to submit to the PFI RP. I think next we're going to submit to the SBIR phase 1, because you need to submit to phase 1 before getting the phase 2. Yeah, so they didn't quite believe that we were ready yet to really fund an SBIR. That's what the feedback that we got.
So that's interesting, because that actually is one of the key reasons for PFI to be in existence in the first place, as we discussed earlier. A lot of research is simply maybe too early or premature for SBIR or STTR, but they are definitely worth funding and cannot be ignored, and the National Science Foundation fully realizes that. So to prepare you to make a sequential transition into SBIR or STTR, PFI is a great springboard to do that. So Lorenzo, you had indicated that your most likely progression then will be to move into an SBIR application. Ming Lee, what are your aims? Do you have similar intentions, or do you have another roadmap that you're following?
Well, as you know, there's currently a lot of funding for COVID-19 related diagnostics. And so I think I'm leaning more towards NIH funding for that, if possible. And it could be true for, yeah, I'm not quite sure yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we had discussed earlier research partnerships. It's a mandate that we have an industry collaborator. Is that, or was that the case for both of you for your tech translation grant, that you have an industry partner, or was it just simply highly encouraged? If you have one, who is it, and what's their role in all of this?
It was very highly encouraged. It was very highly encouraged. There was honestly a little bit of a gray area there. So with the PFI TT, what happened in my case is that I did put some budget lines in the budget about working with an external collaborator to validate our technology, to really take our technology, send it to an industrial partner who can do the validation. And that is not free. I think for the research partnership track, I think in that case, it has to be free, because the industrial partner has to provide the service. To be a partnership, the industrial partner has to not charge. Instead, in my case, there was something in the budget line. It was not a lot. It was a very small part of the budget. And the program manager, actually, before awarding the grant, the program manager came back to me and tell me, and he wanted a really exact breakdown of what I was paying for. And in the end, he was fine with it. But yes, some sort of industrial collaboration was highly, highly encouraged. So if you don't have that, I honestly would not recommend apply for it. Make sure that you have that one lined up before applying for the PFI.
Got it. Anybody, Misty, chiming in yet?
Scott asks Martin if you could talk a little bit about encore for those who don't know about the encore program.
Sure, happy to do so. So this is a program that actually had its beginnings at Stanford University and University of California, Berkeley, by a professor by the name of Steve Blank. It follows the lean launchpad method, the business model canvas that I believe most of you are now, at least at a high level, familiar with. So this is an area, and the reason for having this, it actually translated or was adopted or embraced by the National Science Foundation back in 2012. And at its current structure, there are various university region so-called nodes, and the one that UC Riverside is a part of is the so-called INLA, capital IN-LA node, consisting of USC, UCLA, and Caltech. And there are several other nodes around the country as well, within which I have participated as well. UT Austin, Georgia Tech, and Columbia, NYU are the ones that are foremost, at least in terms of my participation. But the objective here, and the reason for its being, is that most of our business plans, which VCs and angel investors are not necessarily motivated or inclined to look at, because there are two things that are almost universally true about business plans, not to mention the Excel spreadsheets that follow, and that is they're wrong before the ink even dries. So the aim here is that if you undergo an I-Corps Lean Launchpad program, which encompasses a very assertive, and by the way, this is an intensely competitive program to get involved in, is that it concentrates on you performing experiments. It follows the scientific concept of creating a hypothesis in terms of how your target customer, who they are, how they will behave to a generated set of value propositions, which will be of highest motivation to get them into your camp. The best way and prospectively the only way to truly get the correct answer is to go out there and meet with them and conduct informational interviews. The national program is an 8 to 10 week cohort that requires that you conduct high quality, outward approaching informational interview questions. We are a site at UC Riverside. We are a 5 to 8 week program, depending upon the structure that we conduct. We follow expressly the Lean Launchpad model, learning how to interview, form hypotheses, generate lessons learned, create insights gained, which in turn will ultimately generate the key leading value propositions, which will be most influential for them to come into our camp. Highly competitive, very, very rigorous. The purpose of going through UC Riverside is that as we are a part of the National Science Foundation I-Corps program, and by the way, I've also been involved in both the Department of Defense and the National Institutes of Health, which have their own respective I-Corps programs. The aim here is that your target customers are the ones who are ultimately supposed to write your business model for you, and the ones that will ultimately respond to the value propositions within your business model. So that's kind of a high area, and those are the nodes there. You should know that it is undergoing reconstruction right now. It's being downsized initially. The good news is that UC Riverside is going to be remaining a key component of the NLA node, which is a great indication of the good job that Jay Gilberg has done in our program here. So I hope that somewhat helps. It's basically fundamentally a customer discovery and value proposition, validation and development, which heightens and optimizes your chances of commercial success and sustainability and scalability. So I hope that helps a little bit, Scott. Did I miss anything?
Just an add-on question. Does National I-Corps need university association?
It does not need university association, although the National Science Foundation is focusing increasingly to getting closer to that point, Misty. So it's becoming more the norm and the pathway to get into a national cohort by way of a site such as us at UC Riverside. But it is not a mandate to participate in a national cohort by going through an initial university site, although going through a university site initially, like UC Riverside, heightens your chances immeasurably.
Thank you. Another question from one of your colleagues, Thomas Tsai. How did your partnership come about? How do you protect your technology given that industry partners are also interested in the technology? Lorenzo?
Oh, Ming Lee first this time, Ming Lee.
Okay, Ming Lee.
Sure. So we basically found our partners through the National encore, because the National encore forces you to get out of your comfort zone and interview a whole lot of potential customers. And out of those, the 100 that you interview in 2 months, only a handful end up being potentially worth pursuing. And so those connections that you build shamelessly pursuing these targets were actually really helpful in establishing partnerships. Also, I guess you could go through your LinkedIn network, I guess. So for me, I went back to old friends from graduate school in Stanford for introductions and things like that. So that's basically how I found the partners. Yeah, on to you, Lorenzo.
Yeah, in my case, it was, I just knew their name by being in this field for many years. So we are making some battery materials, and the truth of the matter is that in the battery industry, investors don't believe your data. They think it's junk. You need to have externally validated data. And we knew of one company that provides services as external validation, and they became our partners. Now, the thing that is interesting about our partnership is that they also kind of know everybody in the industry. So once they like our product, and if we get to the point that they really like our product, they will also help us with more introduction to more industry players to really facilitate the commercialization. But I knew them. I've been knowing this company for many years because I've been active in this material space for like almost 10 years. So I knew the name.
I should note that the Office of Technology Partnerships has an exceptional team focused expressly on the development of long-standing corporate alliances or corporate partnerships as well. Ken Grise, Jim Liano, and so forth. So there is a team that is also able to help us. If you need some guidance or connectivity or other, most of you do not, but if you do, these are exceptional people who can work in concert with you to get that part done.
Yeah, and with respect of protecting the technology, I mean, file an invention disclosure and speak with Brian Su and make sure that it's protected. I mean, that's relatively simple. In my case, I always had a very, very good experience with the way the University UCR has been handling the IP. It's easy.
Appreciate you bringing that up, Lorenzo, because I actually had forgotten to mention Brian Saw in his technology transfer department, licensing and IP. So we also have a rock solid best of breed team to help us march through that as well. So I wanted to ask also, I don't know if I see any further questions, but I'm asking everyone that if you would like to jump in, just cut me off and hop in. Your questions are more important than me. But I was also curious, Ming Lee and Lorenzo, in order to win the day, were there any key reviewer criteria that were used to look and assess the fundworthiness, I guess, of your PFI proposals that you think came into play and resonated the most? Were there anything in your proposal that supremely met their criteria that we would recommend everybody else here in our audience today focus on?
So I'll go first, I guess.
Yeah.
So one of the reviewers for this proposal didn't like how I crafted my commercialization strategy. So Martin actually stepped in here and saved the day. So thanks a lot, Martin. I really should buy you a beer when the pandemic's over. But basically, Martin
sure,
helped.
just put it in the mail. That'd be okay too.
That's true. Yeah. So Martin really helped me identify and spell out who my customers are and how I would discover more customers. And because I wrote in my proposal for the PFI TT that I would rely on academic partners, and everyone knows that academic partners are fickle, we don't have much money, et cetera, et cetera. So the reviewers didn't really like that very much. And so Martin helped me really pad it up in response to the reviewer comments. And so, and make it more believable and make the proposal fundable, basically. So I really relied on people like Jay Gilbert and Martin to really help me nail this down and think of in terms of market segments and customers instead of what the normal grants are typically about.
And Lorenzo, thank you, Ming Lee. And I know that Lorenzo, our Salier, did perform some great magic for you as well.
Yeah. So our go-to-market strategy was rock solid. We work in a very crowded space, which is the battery space, but the reviewers liked the fact that our technology is simple. We have a very simple technology that is easy to integrate in commercial batteries, and so they all appreciated that. They recognize that this is actually doable, because with a lot of technologies in the battery space, there may be a great idea, but people think that it's never going to be a real battery one day. Instead, in our case, they could see that this can be translated into a product. And before the award was finalized, the program manager, Soriano, he asked me if I could elaborate more on the outreach, actually. So I did have to write a couple of paragraphs on how I'm going to involve undergraduates in the lab, undergraduates from underrepresented group, underrepresented minorities, and how they're going to get exposed to the prototyping, the validation, and the commercialization experience. So I had to put that in, because it's NSF, and NSF cares about student involvement. It is a grant yes, it's a grant that is supposed to help commercialization, but they care about student involvement, so that they wanted to see that as well. At least in my case. I don't know if Ming Lee, you had the same experience. In my case, it was quite adamant about it.
Yeah, so same here. So I had to rewrite my education section twice before he was happy, and I had to make it much longer than, it was originally only one paragraph, so it became one page at the end of it. So
yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Terrific. So Asan, welcome. It's been a while. I'm glad you could join us today. So did you want to ask your question, or I can read it on chat, whatever your desires are. Did you want to ask it?
Oh yeah, sure. So I was wondering, like, what do the reviewers in SBIR really care about in terms of the technology readiness level of the idea? Is it just an idea is okay, or they want to have some simulations, or they want to have like preliminary like prototypes, or they want to have like more advanced TRL like 4 or 5? So based on the experience of like the ones who applied and got the grants.
So I will say that my technology is now at TRL 5. Probably when we submitted the SBIR, we were at TRL 4. And it didn't fly. The SBIR reviewers, they said this is too early. Now, the SBIR, we didn't put TRL 4 in there because the SBIR doesn't actually require that you declare what is the TRL level of your technology. But they could read by the technology description that it was probably a little bit too early. But it was good enough for the PFI, and that's exactly the point of the PFI. The point of the PFI is to advance the TRL, to get your technology more ready and closer to commercialization, so that then you can write a successful SBIR. I haven't written that successful SBIR yet, so take my advice with a little bit of a grain of salt. But that's my opinion right now.
Terrific. What about you? Any additions to that, Ming Lee?
Yeah, so my partner submitted SBIR application, which was not funded after we finished our national encore program. So that was in December 2018, and the reviews came back saying that they don't believe it will work, and basically we needed a prototype for them to either published or for a company to work on. And so that's why we also switched to the PFI TT, because I didn't see any point in flagging a dead horse for the SBIR. So.
Terrific. So let me just ask you a couple of 30,000 foot level questions. What areas in your proposal would you say are the most challenging that were for both of you, and that we as prospective PFI applicants need to be given a heads up for?
Well, for me, I think it was finding a partner. So because we are in the Inland Empire, and it's relatively difficult, I think, compared to living in the Boston area or even in the Bay Area, to find someone who would use what I'm creating. So I think that was quite difficult for me. So I had to rely on partners pretty far away, which I found in the National encore program. But so I think that was, that was a challenge.
In my case, I mean, the commercialization part, I'm really bad at it. So thank God, Art Salier, the entrepreneur in residence, was deeply involved with helping us with that. And he really helped us, me and my postdoc, to beat that part of the proposal into shape. So yes, the PI has to be a university professor, but again, if you don't have somebody with a strong commercialization background in the team, I wouldn't waste my time trying it. You need to have that person in your team.
Got it. So I just have one final question, Misty, and then I can throw the baton back to you. So get ready with some one-liners or something like that, or maybe Eric Gossink, you can help us with a couple of jokes as well. But all kidding aside, what experiences and advice can you share with us that could help all of us to become more competitive? If you could give us one or two bits of sage wisdom that you think that if you would have known back then, or if you knew then what you now know, is there anything that you can share with us that might maybe heighten our opportunities for PFI success?
Keep it simple. I mean, in my opinion, is TIS is a little bit of an unusual program because it is for universities. It is NSF, but the panelists, many of them, they are not scientists. They are entrepreneurs. They are from the business community, and so. If you're used to write scientific proposals, you really need to change your writing style. This is more about explaining your technology in simple terms, but still convince the panel that it's doable, that it's technology that is technologically solid and believable. Okay, so that's the part that to me was a little bit more challenging, kind of switching writing style from the very hypothesis-driven, scientifically rigorous writing style to something that is more of a marketing pitch almost.
Terrific.
So for me, I think that the UCR's OTP team, I've only interacted deeply with Martin and Jay Gilbert. So they are really valuable. They made really valuable contributions, but not just them. It's the whole national encore experience. Really opened my eyes, and I just did it to do someone a favor originally, but it actually really helped me advance my research and think of new ideas outside this PFI TT grant. So I highly recommend you do it, whether you have tenure or no tenure, or whether you're too busy or anything, because I think it really helps you grow as a person, and it was for me very eye-opening and yeah, pretty rewarding.
Terrific.
I agree with you, Ming Lee. I wouldn't do it before tenure, though. I kind of disagree with you on that because it's very time consuming. It's very time consuming. It takes time.
Yeah,
I
it
will
doesn't do
do.
very much though. If someone else does, like the other people on the team do most of the work, right?
Still, it was quite I mean, a good distraction because
Yeah.
it really helped us. But man, it takes commitment.
Yeah. But for only 3 months, 2 months, 2 months.
Yeah,
Sure. So one of the characteristics of the Partnerships for Innovation is advancing your research to a point of being ready for prime time, so to speak, with SBIR or STTR, but it also funds the derivation of an MVP or a prototype. And my reason for mentioning that is we have an exceptional colleague with us, Eric Gosink, who had mentioned a comment of, it's not about the science, get the product working as soon as possible. Eric, would it be okay for us to impose on you to maybe indicate what you mean by that? And we'd appreciate that very much if you could.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a scientist, full confession. I was brought up doing research, but this is a business proposition is what you're looking for. So yeah, it's great that your science solves something, but business is about getting the product made, getting it out there so that people can try it and use it. So that's what you have to think about. That's the whole different world about getting into business development as opposed to doing more research. It's not about funding to do more research. It's about funding to turn your research into a product. And so you have to have that mindset that this is not about just doing more science. This is about how do I make something from my science into something that someone will want to use. And it doesn't even have to be perfect. That's, you know, we're always trying in science to try and make it perfect, try and add one little tweak to it. Don't waste your time on that. Get that product out there, get it in the hands of the customers, get some feedback. Then you can go back and improve it, get some more feedback. Then you can improve it again. Don't worry about making a perfect attempt the first time around.
Eric, thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated. So let me flip back into screen sharing. There it is. Or not. Here we go.
Martin, can you put on the slide for Office of Technology Partnerships?
I sure can. And then I was just going to close with this particular slide here to let them know who's to blame for this hour that they just went through.
So
yeah, there you go.
I talked about this just very briefly in the beginning, but Ming Lee and Lorenzo mentioned quite a few times some of the services we provide at the Office of Technology Partnerships. So I just want to let everybody know that that's what our team is here for. We help in all these areas: technology commercialization, we help with corporate strategic partnerships, innovation, entrepreneurship. We have over 15 mentors that can assist with these type of proposals, commercialization plans and such. So I thought I would also, since he's here, introduce our director of our EPIC SBDC, Scott Brofsky, if he wanted to discuss a little bit more about the services that our SBDC provides.
Yeah, thanks, Misty. So yeah, Scott Brofsky, part of the team here with Martin and Misty and Eric and others who are on this call and others. And yeah, the whole idea is that what we're doing with our program is we're funding the SBIR STTR Resource Center that Misty and Martin lead. And then we also, as Misty mentioned, we have a team of 15 mentors with different backgrounds and expertise, both vertical, so pharma, ag tech, clean tech, other expertise, as well as horizontal expertise. So Lorenzo mentioned one of our great mentors, Art Solier, several times, who has a CEO and COO background in a number of different industries. So, and then we also have some folks who have backgrounds as angel investors and venture capitalists. So it's a really strong mentor group we've put together over the last 4 years. We've been building this EPIC program. And I would just encourage, I see a number of the folks who are on this call who have already reached out to us and are connected to us and are working with our mentors. But for those of you who haven't, it's just a great opportunity to get basically no cost help to grow either your research project or your startup, whichever you may have. And one thing that we focus on with EPIC SBDC is we've helped about 5 and now it's soon to be 6 startups that were projects in the labs at UCR. We also help other colleges in the region, so Cal Baptist and others. We've helped bring them out of the lab, get them funded through SBIR, STTR funding, and now we're in a phase where we're helping them raise and have helped them raise venture capital funding. We have also helped find fractional and full-time CEOs for the projects that are coming out of the labs, because as many of the professors and grad students who are on the line know, many of you won't be leaving your roles as teachers at the universities, as professors, especially if you're tenured. So we end up plugging in a lot of talent into these projects. And then I'll finally mention that we have the only venture capital fund in the entire Inland Empire region that we started also a few years ago. It's called the Highlander Venture Fund. And that is actively investing in some of these projects that I mentioned that we're bringing out of the UCR lab. So there's never been a better time to bring one of your projects out of the lab if you want to turn it into a startup. And I guess the last thing I'll also mention is I think Martin mentioned it earlier, but the other path, it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a startup. We also have a team, Brian Suh's team can help the professor lead an investigation into who might be a great corporate partner to acquire your technology or license your technology. So it's not always that it has to be a startup or a new company form, but if you want to think about a new company or a startup, our EPIC SBDC team is the team to get in touch with. So thanks everyone for joining, and I'll turn it back over to Misty.
Terrific. I just wanted to interject if I could, Misty. I think that we had an opportunity to mention, at least ever so briefly, some of the services. Scott had mentioned EPIC SBDC. We have our Excite Incubator and Accelerator. encore was mentioned. And of course, yours truly and Misty, the support center. Scott mentioned the venture fund. We also have proof of concept awards. And if you're a student here working or participating today, we've got Blackstone Launchpad. Scott runs on a weekly basis Founder Talks, and we had referenced the Brian Suh's team, corporate partnerships. Forthcoming at the earliest seminal stages in Oasis Innovation Park, and prospectively an additional angel fund and conference. So stay tuned. We continue to grow rapidly and extensively, and we will be ground zero for a myriad of tremendous commercialization and market development opportunities. So as I had mentioned, these are the two individuals who are to blame for everything that happened for the past hour. So if you have any questions whatsoever about anything that we talked about today, not just PFI, SBIR, or otherwise, don't hesitate for a second to reach out to us, and we'll get back to you, and we will look very much forward to working with you. Misty, did you want to wrap up?
Sure, I just wanted to let everyone know the webinar has been recorded. It will be available on our website. I can also email it to those that want it later today. Thank you, Ming Lee and Lorenzo, very much for coming to talk today. I think this was very informative, and we learned a lot about the PFI and the proposal process. And with that, I think we'll sign off, but thank you again, everyone, for coming, and I hope to see you in 2 weeks at our next SBIR Talks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ming Lee. Thanks, Lorenzo.
Bye, Martin. Bye, Misty.
Bye for now.
Bye.